A lot of your friends out here are worried about you, buddy. They'd like to see this situation resolve itself peacefully.
Tell them this is a peaceful demonstration.
This is a peaceful demonstration.
So no one's being held against their will?
No, everyone is here because they want to be here.
Everyone is here because they want to be here.
And would it be safe to assume that some are not of sound mind?
I mean, you don't need to be mentally ill to know that it's freezing outside, Detective.
That's a scene from the new movie The Public, which tackles two of the most vexing human tragedies we face as a nation and a society: homelessness and mental illness, and of course, the all too common connection between the two. The film's release can't help but feel like a dose of much-needed human connection that coincides with a political moment in presidency in which some of the most desperate humans on the planet are targets for political attacks. Here to explain why this film is exactly what you should see to restore your faith in picking the fights that need fighting, we are joined by Emilio Estevez, writer, director, producer, and star of the new film, The Public. Thank you so much for being here. We walked into hugs and big fans. And,
I feel like I know all of you.
Likewise.
Right, and so I feel so blessed and grateful to be on the show, and thanks for having me. It's a real privilege.
Tell us, the privilege is all ours. Tell us about the movie first, and then I want to talk about why it matches this moment.
So the film takes place in the downtown Cincinnati Public Library. It takes place on a particularly cold night, which of course we all know. We just experienced this polar vortex descending on the Midwest, and people were dying in the streets. So that's right out of the headlines. So it takes place on this cold night where the patrons, many of whom are homeless and some are suffering from mental illness, decide to stage an old-fashioned 60s sit-in. And it doesn't go well because they don't really have a plan. So law enforcement is brought in to try to deal with it and de-escalate it. The media gets involved and they spin it up and to grab ratings. And then of course there's a politician who's involved, who's in the middle of an election cycle for mayor, and he tries to change the narrative for his own political gain.
And there are politics on both sides. And what I took away is that nothing is beyond. We have a president who mocked disabled people. We have a president engaged in a war against the victims of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. We have a president who ran in the midterms against asylum seekers,
That's
really
right.
the most vulnerable humans on the planet.
That's right.
This film seems to lift some of those themes.
Well, it does, and this has been 12 years in the making. Yeah. So I started this in 2007, and I started to create this story. And you can imagine the frustration on my part as every year that the movie wasn't getting made, I was watching the stories in the film, this fictional film, unfold in real time on television, online. And it was, I kept saying, this movie has to get made. We have to do whatever we can in our power to make sure that this comes to fruition.
Is this, I mean, do you all kind of talk amongst yourselves about showing, not telling? It seems like there was such a backlash against Hollywood for being too politically active, but it seems like storytelling may be your more potent weapon.
Well, I think so. I think over the centuries, the artists have been some of our greatest activists. In fact, I don't believe there's any separation between the artist and the activist. And so we are tasked with holding up a mirror and saying, this is what you look like. Stop it. And journalists as well. But I think that is where we are right now at this moment in history.
Nicole, to your point, the timing is so brilliant against this dehumanizing president. And I'm sure one of the takeaways of the film, it's so easy to not see these people as humans. What I do with every homeless person, I would challenge everybody to do beyond helping them. So tell me about you. How'd you get here?
That's right.
That's the people, and they started out with moms and dads, and went to college
and homes,
and it went bad. And I challenge everybody, because that's what obviously at the end of the day this movie's about.
That's right.
To everybody who see a homeless person, help them and go, hey man, how'd you get here? And you will be stunned. And I guess that's a big theme in the movie.
The film puts a face and a name and dignity into those experiencing homeless, those may be in the grips of mental illness or addiction. And it all takes place inside your local public library, where there is no first-class cabin.
Yeah.
Right? It's a great, the library is a great equalizer.
And frankly, libraries, I think the juxtaposition of the mental health issue in the public library is maybe something people don't realize is so real.
That's right.
Because libraries around the country have been a place where the mentally ill have felt comfortable and safe.
That's right.
Quiet, nobody bothers them.
That's right.
And the sad thing is our country shut down a lot of mental health facilities.
That's right.
A few decades ago, and for good reason in some instances, because we were warehousing people.
That's right.
And just medicating them. But when we shut them down, we did not put the public policy dollars behind mental health treatment in a group setting. And a lot of the folks out there that are doing criminal things and are frankly probably portrayed in your movie, it is an issue of just mental health treatment.
That's right.
Which
That's
includes
right.
addiction treatment, obviously.
That's right.
So this is really, I hope, not just talking to homeless, but I hope your movie motivates people to ask people running for office, including presidential candidates,
Well,
to talk about mental health funding in this country.
Well, it has to
and
be
whether
part
or
of the
not
conversation.
it's
right? It must
being
be.
funded.
Yeah, and well, President Carter signed the Mental Health Services Act, which was the following year was voted out.
Right.
So yeah, it's mental health is an important component and dealing with it.
Let me ask you the last question. Does this moment change the kinds of things you dedicate your time and your talents to?
Well, I made a left turn about 20 years ago, and I started making films for me rather than the studios and what my agents and managers wanted me to do. I started making films that were about a shared trauma, or about a shared humanity, and these are the films that I want to go see, and hopefully audiences will want to see.
We all do. Congratulations, film. Thank you for being here.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.